Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm back. Ah, you know when nothing just works? It's just a nightmare. That's where we were then, literally. Seems to be working now, thankfully. Basically, Ash, stop being too clever. Stop trying to do two things at once. Basically, simple as that. Anyways, let me know if you like the new chat box that is above my microphone, so to speak. Positioning seems to be somewhat good. If it works, it works. Awesome. And hopefully the chat will all appear on there in a minute. But yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. I think. No drop frames yet. Honestly, ridiculous. But there we go. The live box is working. So yeah, at least we've got something there for people to see when we do the chatting. Anyways, let's talk about what is actually genuinely happening in the market, right? Because I think this is important. Title of the video, the live stream is Have we bottomed yet? Okay? I know. Have we bottomed yet? What's happening next? Let me know where you're from. Let me know what you've had for your dinner. Let me know if you hate me yet. All that kind of stuff, right? Because there's stuff happening. And let me just get things up on my screen, if I can figure it all out again, because my I've lost my OBS now. Oh, that's not a good sign. No, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. So, screen recording. Hello, welcome to my X account. Feel free to follow. I've added a little chat box. I need to remove Twitch now because that's just not going to work, is it? Oops. But anyways, right, let's get into the fine nitty-gritty detail of this video. Firstly, news this week. This week we have a bit of a problem. US steel. Import tax. That's come up. So that could be fun, right? We do have CPI this week on Wednesday. Keep an eye out for that. I might do a live stream recording and reacting to that realistically, potentially. We also have Mr. Powell speaking on 2 separate occasions over the course this week. So that could be fun too. So be mindful. Anyways, let's talk about short squeezes. Because what's actually happening here? There's a lot to unpack in this video, a lot about cycles as well. So I feel, let me know if you're in the agreement in the comment section below or wherever you want to do it. Feel free to. The big thing that I want to say here is I think people already on the chat are getting it wrong. Why short? Short squeezes, it means a bounce, basically. It's because, when we're looking at the chart here, and the chart is telling us one thing and one thing only, everyone is short on Ethereum. I don't know why. Don't know why. And if my voice sounds a bit croaky, it's because I've got a bit of a cough and a bit of cold, so just be mindful of that. Over the course of the last 60 hours, this was on the 2nd of February, over a 60-hour period, there was a 37% drop on Ethereum. $1 trillion was raised. The inflows in the ETFs, not great, but there's a lot of inflows in terms of net short currently. So open interest in terms of the Ethereum side of the market is really high. Now, what a short squeeze is when the bulls will then take over, when late shorts will get liquidated, essentially. So many people will be covering off, they'll be a bit loose in their positions, and they may well go short a little bit too late, and eventually retail normally gets liquidated and we create a bounce. If this happens with Ethereum, we may well get a bigger bounce than we kind of somewhat expected, because Ethereum is not doing very well. We've covered this many times in the live stream. As I say, leave a like, subscribe, let me know what your thoughts are. But we've often said, well, why is Ethereum doing so bad? So when we talk about the fact of Donald Trump stating that, oh, hello, he likes to buy Ethereum, and then the news is coming out that, oh my God, Ethereum's got so many shorts on it. It's very, very interesting. So it just adds to that kind of propaganda of it, so to speak. So as you can see here, it's very interesting. I don't like to use the word manipulation, but all I'm just saying is I think it's a bit odd, especially this image, don't you think? So I think we're getting towards the bottom, so to speak, psychology-wise. It's not looking great. And as you can see, largely significant. Well, you can doesn't take a rocket science to work out that Ethereum is significantly underperformed. But the reality is here is Ethereum the catalyst for an alt season, maybe. So yeah, that is one side of the coin. There's so much to unpack here, by the way. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of leverage short here. Wow. Anyways, Another thing as well, I mentioned this the other day too, the fact that there's been huge selling pressure on Bitcoin spot exchanges since the collapse of 3AC, which was in June of 2022, and Bitcoin still remaining around 99 to 98 to 100K. That's interesting. So keep an eye on that. The other thing that we need to talk about is the fact that there's potentially going to be QE, but not QE, that will commence in the next 2 weeks. Now, I don't know how true this is. I often say to people, don't take what you see on the world of X with fine grain detail because it might well need a lot of salt with it. This is the thing, right? Let's talk about the obvious in the room. There will be some sort of situation where we'll go from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. Now, the US government, its debt ceiling, which we all know is as strong as a bit of wet paper, so that doesn't really matter. But the reality is here, they cannot keep doing certain things to the market. They can't, get inflation down by just reducing interest because it doesn't just work like that. They've got to do other things, more to the point. So, as you can see here, this could function in the same sort of way as quantitative easing, but not known as quantitative easing. A liquidity injection totaling up to $830 billion. So, I'm not an economist, but I will tell you the fine details is we need liquidity. And if certain quantitative easing and quantitative tightening functionality changes a little bit, it might well release the burden, so to speak, but that debt ceiling will obviously increase. So, as you can see here, while strictly not QE, it looks like QE and sounds like QE and smells like QE, which is why it's dubbed QE, not QE, so to speak. It makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because if you're adding liquidity to the market and you're increasing the balance of your balance sheet, it means one thing and one thing only: new liquidity going into the market. Keep an eye on this. This might be a developing story. So I'm putting that point out there in terms of how they do this and why they do this. But at the same time, it's a long read. I can't be arsed reading it. I'm on a live stream. But ultimately, this could happen. Remember, Donald Trump, he wants interest rates low. He wants to encourage his spending and a strong market. And we've got a strong jobs market too. Could well be a factor. Anyways, another bit of like long bump for you is cycles. 4-year cycle. Bob Lucas has tweeted about this, and we are in the mania phase in terms of the cycle analysis. That's kind of obvious, and I know people are like, oh, but nothing's happened yet. Yeah, I know that, but we're waiting for the little shakeout, and I think we're near that bottom sort of cycle point where we're looking like, fear and greed's at 35. We've got certain situations, as mentioned before, in terms of like Ethereum. But right now, we're at a point where this chart here, right? So this is showing a couple of things, right? And I'll explain in more detail. Basically, cycles go off weekly patterns. It's mad how it works, and there's always a reason for it. And it kind of scares me how correct half the time these are. Not all the time, no, but half the time, yes. Repeat structure of prior 4-year cycles tops out around 35 months. Okay. 2 weeks cycle, around 90% gain from cycle low to high. Comfortable aspects of trend line. Right. We're kind of at that point where we could be coming up towards that last kind of push in the cycle, the final year, the final 8 months, so to speak, right? So as you can see here above, the consistent elements, the midpoints and stuff like that, we kind of are in that situation where we're looking at certain points in the market. Essentially, what we're looking for here, right, is a new cycle. So basically, we're going to be starting soon. It's going to peak in May, in June, and then the final cycle will peak, in kind of October, December time. That's interesting, and we need to keep an absolute eye on it. That doesn't mean it's going to be bulletproof. It says at the bottom of this post as well that essentially what happened was we didn't have a final blow off in the last cycle, but it kind of did respect a lot of the factors, which is massive. It really is huge. So we are on path. It is fine. It's getting towards that situation. But then I know you're all going to be saying, well, what about altcoins? Well, altcoins as well. It feels like the altcoin capitulation. We could be coming towards that short squeeze where things will go a bit mental. And this is a really interesting post as well. I should really follow this account. Let's press. There we go. Follow the button. There we go. You got a new follower. So again, we talk about the market is dead sort of vibes where, last time they heard this was the SEC was listing off money, all that kind of horrible stuff. Remember that? Normally when it's worse, it's like it feels bad, but it's actually not. When we go on to this kind of situation, to halving cycles theory, this is kind of where we're at. And we're kind of in that middle kind of point where we're going to start seeing things move a little bit. And it kind of marries up quite nicely in the past of where we kind of are and what we're kind of doing. Are we going to get that liquidity rush? Are we going to get the cycle narrative carry on? And then we are just going to pop off when people are least expecting it. Right now, it's quiet. It's very, very quiet. How many people on stream? Let's have a look. No, there's only 100 people, 15 likes. It's quiet. It's very quiet. And I'm doing it peak times, even though I made a complete cock up. But it is very, very, very quiet in the market. And that's kind of interesting where we are. It feels like it's a time to buy. It feels like everything's getting interesting. So when we are talking about the likes of this and how history repeats and often does its thing, this is kind of where we're at. It's scary, really. And again, as I allude to it, the fear and greed is at 35. Haha, we're at 35. 35. And Bitcoin's at nearly 100K. What? How does that work? We've gone down $8,000 from the all-time high. Okay. So stuff like that is interesting. Maybe not 100K. Was it 97 today? You get the idea. But yeah, it's really interesting. The psychology of it is absolutely massive here. And I know people who follow me will know that I time things pretty well, usually, not all the time. But when I look at my YouTube stats, when I look at my live stream kind of analysis, when I look at certain videos that I do, when we talk about today's video, we're talking about we should be looking to buy. Really, we should be looking to buy, time to buy sort of things. Because when that Ethereum chart flips, and let's talk about Ethereum, let's just go on to Ethereum, go heavy on it, because this is an interesting level. Overall, when it retested previous levels, and we're talking a long way down the BTC pair, this is interesting. If this changes character and we start trekking up, it could get very interesting. People start getting a little bit kind of tense. But look above my head on these charts. Litecoin's doing very well today. Dog's doing very well today. You got Magic Eden up 8% today. You've got Stacks up 8%. Sui up 8% today. A lot of altcoins have bounced, which is massive. So stuff like that, it's important. It's important to note. So when things do bounce, yeah, we've got to take note of it. But ultimately, the dollar could go higher. The S&P 500 could go towards its all-time high again. So it's just waiting for that time. And I feel like Ethereum holds the cards to that. XRP and stuff like that's had a bit of a run. Solana's had a run, but not life-changing runs, but enough to get people noticing. Once everything goes up, people will return. Your notifications will go off. Everyone will watch YouTube videos again. And it'll go a bit bananas again. It's just the way it is. So we've got to look at that as a factor. Let me know what you think. I think we're getting towards that bottoming vibes, literally bottoming vibes. It feels rough. It feels horrible. I know. And I've just seen someone on the chat there say it feels very similar to the 2017 bull run. It does. It feels oddly different in one way, but oddly, there's a lot of similarities, realistically, in a way, where nothing's happening for a while and all of a sudden pop. And if we do get those live streams coming up, not live streams, sorry, liquidity coming up, and then people will start watching said live streams and watching said information, and it all goes running downhill again, it's just going to get more and more interesting very, very quickly. So yeah, we need to look at that factor. Anyways, I'm good. I'm glad to see that certain things are happening. I can see that the chat box is I've pressed the wrong button there. The chat box is working, which is great. I'm happy that my live stream looks pretty professional and neat and tidy for once. Just don't remember, ignore the bit that happened at the start. Anyways, let's look at some of the God, I can't speak. Let me have a look at some of the live comments and stuff like that. So what we got? I'm incredibly bullish on 2025. The data is good. Macroeconomics is just noise. QT is, yeah, I agree. It's getting towards that time, isn't it, where things are starting to slowly change. But once they do stop QT and once they start doing some sort of, voluntary QE, so to speak, or they start, that balance sheet starts to increase again, things will get interesting. So I wouldn't worry too much about it just yet. Stream looks good, thank you. Why do you expect short squeeze? Kind of explained it before in terms of where we are right now in the market and obviously the amount of short on Ethereum right now, which is very, very interesting. Coin analysis, so 64/7, yeah. Still people short. Thing is, though, when there's enough longs and it starts bouncing and then they get liquidated, it'll just squirt. I know people love me saying that word. Feels very, yeah, I've already read that one. Ethereum more dead than runes. Yeah. I mean, Ethereum's awful. I mean, we can put 5 things on it in terms of why it's probably doing really badly, like really, really badly. But hey, we can't pinpoint one though, can we? That's the thing. This chart shows that we were going to see a massive bounce. Yeah, 100%. Fizzy, when we talk about Ethereum, right? Let me go back to the chart a little bit. We talk about Ethereum, and there's 2 things we need to look at. One, even today, it's up 0.11% in BTC. It's shocking, right? When we look at the rest of the altcoin market, it's hardly up at all versus everything else. It's only just beating Bitcoin right now, currently. But why? And that's the thing. If this has a little injection of hopium and it pops up like to 3,000 very quickly, you're probably going to see a almighty, an almighty bounce, realistically, because you're going to get that short squeeze and then everything will run with it. You got to think as well, all the bots and all the kind of bits and bobs that run around it will always pick up on Ethereum doing well. Ethereum coins, projects, whatever you want to know them as, they will bounce with it at the same time, and then it will create that little spark. And we've had those little sparks twice in the market recently. We've obviously had the XRP kind of pop where everything kind of ran up with the ISO coins, and obviously the start of last year where we had those little AI runs and certain things happened. Obviously, even if you look at BTC and Ethereum dominance, certainly in that time period, right? Even Ethereum dominance went up a lot in that time period. It kind of, we had a couple of weeks of it and it squirted up. And then obviously the USD price of Bitcoin increased, which is fair game, so to speak. But it's quite hard to kind of navigate that. But over time, as you can see, Ethereum has just dropped and dropped and dropped. It's just the question is, where does Ethereum go from here? Do we go higher? Do we go and chill out somewhere? Do we go back and retest certain previous levels, like up here, for example? How much of the percent of the market is going to be Ethereum now? It's going to be an interesting point. But as much as we are looking at it thinking, oh my God, that's really dying, Bitcoin's held strong, so to speak. So yeah, be very, very interesting to see where we go from here. Realistically, I think it's going to be an interesting point in the market. But I feel like a lot of people are giving up, so to speak. What else have we got? DXY is showing strength. Yeah, that's one thing that does need to come back down, personally. Hi Ash, is there any chance of only BTC goes up in alt season? No alt season, yes, he is. Massive chance. I think there's more of a chance than that, right? The big thing I will say is this time around is the ETF and the interest around the ETFs very big, very big. So yes, there will be a situation where money will rotate around, but I think now it's mindset. Let me put my own opinion on this. I'm attached to my Bitcoin. If anyone's been in the market longer than 6-7 years and you've been holding Bitcoin, you might well be attached to your Bitcoin too. That's just kind of the fundamentals of it. You were like looking at that thinking, oh, that's a lot of money. And it is, right? I invested when it was $600, right? Tax reasons, me moving it into altcoins, becomes a bit shit, not gonna lie. You then got situation that, well, over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, there's only been like a couple of years in that, or a couple of monthly periods where Bitcoin's been outperformed by altcoins. So that navigation of it is kind of, you've got to wait for something to really happen to kind of move over. So yeah, there is a situation where you may well see an alt season, but it may well be very niche as well. So there's so many caveats to this, and it feels like we're at the bottom. But I will be the first to admit, and many people as well who know this, rising tides won't rise all ships this time around. But I think there will be a change. There will be a change in step. There will be a push in the altcoin market. But I just don't think you're going to make 10x on the BTC pairs. I don't think you're going to make a 20x in the USD pairs neither on certain things. You're just not. I just don't think you will this time around. But you'll make money. It's just we need to wait for it to happen. That's the hard part. That's the bit that you kind of doubt. And then the thing that you'll do is you'll sell and then all of a sudden they'll pop. But yeah. And people kind of agree with me there as well a little bit, which is quite good. Everyone hating dumping on Ethereum makes you wonder when it'll wake up. Yeah, 100%. I think Ethereum has all the legs and all the minerals to do that. It's just a matter of when. 10K might be a bit of a stretch, but if we look at the BTC pair, let me go to the screen again. We're looking at like a retracement of the cycle, so to speak, right? So previous cycle was 2018, 2017 here. This one is what do we call it? The Corona cycle. But again, you can see this on the chart, right? I've already kind of pinpointed it a little bit. Cycle high, so to speak, cycle low. Are we going to correct up here? So if we're looking at basis points of situational awareness of, say, I don't know, let's just say it goes to 618 levels, right? It's 132% gain, right, in the BTC pair. If Bitcoin obviously doubles in price, and that does that, you may well be looking at around an $8,000 to $10,000 Ethereum. But that's the thing; it's going to be the hated rally, isn't it? You just know Ethereum's going to be the hated rally every time it happened. It happened last time in 2017. We went to $1,400. Well, 2018, give or take, the January of it, and then we went all the way down to $82. 82. Why didn't I buy that? I don't know. I'm an idiot. And that's the thing. I bought a lot of other things. I did very, very well, but Ethereum would have been a whole runner either way. What if Ethereum's going to become like a decent runner here and it's going to get you a 4 or 5x? Well, it might do, but also it might not. That's the thing. This is the jeopardy right now. Will people look at Solana? Will people look at Chainlink? Will people look at other chains, so to speak, versus Ethereum because that performance is just not good enough? That's where we're at. It's a very, very interesting proposition nowadays. It never used to be. And the reason why I say that is, as you know, people have already mentioned it, competition. There's too much of it, realistically. So we'll keep an eye on it. What else we got? Got a lot of questions today, which is good to see. A lot of chat. Chat. I don't know how up to date, by the way, the OBS thing's keeping up with it because I need to move that. Bear with me. Let me just move that. Make it. There we go. Cool. That looks a bit better now. Live changes. Boom. 155 people on. Hello. Bit busier today. Maybe people are like, oh, we're going to bounce. We're off for it. We're off to the races. We're going to go. The S&P is way over leverage. Yeah. I don't know if it's way over leverage, but I think what the situation with the S&P is like 7 stocks that are really pushing it, more to the point. I think once that changes, I think it'll be interesting. Any idea about what? Oh, yeah. Leo's tweet about dog. Don't know. Maybe a tier 1 exchange. Ooh, imagine it. We might see a big sell-off as crypto holders will be hurt when the economic tanks due to bad policy. Maybe. Depends on the policy. It depends on liquidity as well. It depends on a lot of factors. I think a lot of people in crypto are stuck now, so they probably may not react. That'd be fun. It's all manufactured to make you feel like no alt season. Yeah, I agree. We would need QE to start in order to have this. Yeah, probably. Well, I wouldn't say QE, but we need something to change a little bit in terms of a change in kind of character. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. What's Stone One saying here? Yeah, there's loads of coins. Yes, yes, not enough money. No, it depends on how you look at it. Some things will do very well, but some things just won't. That happened last cycle, though. Not everyone went past all-time high. It just didn't. What else have we got? There's lots of questions today. I have high hopes for America's going to go on a massive run. Yeah, it depends on Trump, doesn't it? If Trump's policy is, I want lower interest rates, I want to increase consumer spending or borrowing, whatever you want to know it as, and make the markets work again and kind of free up the freedom situation. Obviously, he's done a lot of small tweaks in normal life now, like the gender thing, which was quite funny. Obviously, the tariffs are now coming in. It just depends if that's going to translate into spending and food prices coming down and the ability to allow people to kind of do certain things. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, and if we are going towards that cycle end, which we might well be at the end of this year, it's going to be harder to kind of get everything in a sock, so to speak, so it moves. We'll keep an eye on it. Hey I am down a few odds considering selling for a loss, converting to high conviction coins. Should I do this or wait until the market flips? It depends on where you are. It depends if you can use that as an advantage of a tax loss. You can do tax harvesting if you so need to. Certainly, if you're in the UK, you got until April. You can make some decisions and you can take some losses and you can kind of rinse and repeat that somewhere else. It just depends on where you are. Personally, probably the worst time to do it unless you're doing it for tax reasons. Personal opinion, not financial advice, of course, but ultimately, redo your research, check your conviction. If you like it, maybe buy some more. It's one of those, isn't it? It was a really interesting tweet I saw about how to get yourself break even, and obviously the return of investment that you need to get beyond certain points. It's interesting, but yeah, buy as low as you possibly can. Can BTC rally with USD? Yeah, potentially. I think BTC is kind of doing its own thing at the minute, which is madness, by the way, which is fun. Bitcoin's always its own thing. It's crazy. Do you hold any meme coins? No. I hold Bitcoin runes and that's it. I don't hold any kind of specific meme coin, so to speak. Uh, what if this is the top of the cycle and Trump? See, that's a thing. Let's talk about that question alone, right? So when we talk about is this the top of the cycle, and we talk about the most obvious tops in the cycle, right? Obviously, this is kind of the Bitcoin performance since halving. We're kind of somewhat doing its thing a little bit. BTC, in terms of this situation to market performance since the cycle low, we're okay in terms of where we're at. We're kind of at that lullish point of like the February kind of January time period, right? Now, obviously, if you're trading, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But if you're investing, you're probably hoping that we're going to start going up anytime soon, which could be interesting. But again, as we say, Donald Trump has released a meme coin. That was a bit of a toppy signal, wasn't it? You know, we've got Michael Saylor on the top of Forbes magazine. That's a toppy signal, isn't it? We don't know where the top is. That's the thing. That's the beautiful thing about cryptocurrency and the financial market. We do not know. And I always say to people, if you've made enough money, take some profit and kind of get out before it gets a bit mental. Because you can always have moon bags, you can always do certain things, but ultimately, cycle wise, we're looking beyond August. Anything after August, and let's just be honest here, if I've made loads of money by August, I might not be give a shit about the last of the run. But then people will come out when it's hyped. Oh, lengthening cycles. We're going to go even further. So there's always that jeopardy. At the bottoms, at the lows, at the fragile moments, you always think, oh, we've already topped. That's it. We're over. We're gone. And then at the tops, so to speak, you will find we're going to go higher. Well, Bitcoin's gone from 15K to say 300K, but people want from 300K to 3 million. You know what they're like. It's what people are like. So yeah, stuff like that is interesting. And then when we talk about other things, right? There's so many other factors. And I think I put it on here somewhere. Where have I put it? There you go. Bull market peak indicators. Sell at the top, bollocks, right? Yeah, this might well become in handy, but there'll be something on here that you will take note of and you go, ooh, I don't like the look of that. It's a bit toppy, like the bull indicator, for example, or certain pie top chart indicator. You know, that sort of situation, you've got to look at it. But we haven't had, I don't think, that peak euphoria yet. We've had a little bit of it, but nothing crazy, in my opinion. I mean, look at the charts on here. It's awful. I mean, imagine the cycle top being in and there's been no real altcoin run. You'd question everything. You'd question everything in your entire existence of life. You'd be like, why did I bother? So yeah, that's an interesting point. I know. Um, what else can we talk about? What else is on the chat? I'll look at the chat in a minute. People are wondering, if you're wondering what the pinned post is in the chat, it's for Blowfin. There's a big old event going on. And also, if you're in the UK, this is probably the only place you can get in and trade. The UK sucks, basically. So just thought I'd cover that off. Keep an eye on it. Anyways, what in the chat have we got today again now? There's some funny questions today already. How do you manage your crypto taxes? Great. No, I use Coinly. There's a link below to Coinly if you're interested. There's also a course on learning crypto if you want to do it properly in terms of know what to do. Very, very cheap. It'll give you the pointers. Was there any doubt about alt season in 2017 and 2021? 2017, I was a newbie. I invested in crypto in 2016 and I bought into altcoins at great difficulty because it was much harder back then. And we ran and I made a lot of money. 2021, there was massive doubts. Honestly, I thought like crypto was cooked in 2021. It was very, very weird 2021 because we had that kind of 2018, 2019 bear market. It was a bit crap. Ethereum went down to like $82. It was shit. And then we had like India FUD, China FUD. We had Bitcoin halving bollocks, which didn't really do anything at all. It was like one of the worst halving performances ever. And then obviously coronavirus came around. And it just kind of was, it was rubbish. And I got bored and I started like doing bloody Football Manager live streams because I got that bored. it was boring. Like if I go back on the chart and I'll show you some things, right? If you go even to Bitcoin on the weekly time frame back in like these, I've already highlighted it. You know, we're at periods of life where nothing happened. Like this was the worst range ever at $3,000 in around 2019. It was absolutely shite. It was awful. And this was when learning crypto was born, pretty much, if you're wondering. I've already talked about this. But yeah, we had this like this little run, which was essentially a load of Ponzi schemes came out. Was it Cloud Token and whatever? And then we kind of washed back down into like this kind of COVID crash. And even when this COVID crash recovery kind of happened, this is like quite a lot of weeks of nothingness. Pull back, bosh, and we took ages to get over 10k. And then all of a sudden we went. And the same with altcoins. Altcoins were altcoins were worse. I mean, look at altcoins. I mean, this is Ethereum. So when we're talking about Ethereum, from the low or the bottom all the way across here, we went up a little bit and went back down to it over a 483-day period. Like, what in the hell was that? Awful. So obviously Bitcoin ran and then this didn't do anything at all with it. So yeah, you can see the similarities of like how it kind of was, and it took so long to get going. And again, if we're looking from like the market actually bottom to when we kind of roared a little bit, looking at 600 plus days, 700 days, if you're looking for a break of structure of that point, that is quite horrible. $83. It was 83, 82. Yeah, 83, 80. Ooh. Honking. Disgusting. So yeah, it was very similar. Very, very similar in a way. But we'll see how things go with it. What else have we got? How does retail feel over Trump over indifferent, really? I'm not bothered either way. I'd rather have been him than the others, but then again, I'm not quite sure. I'm not an American. I don't know. Historically, BTC dominance highest decrease each cycle with the altcoins through it. Yeah, I think we're going to see Bitcoin dominance go probably down to 50%, and then we might struggle to get lower than that. Ugh. Yeah. The tops don't end with retail saying the top is in. No, they don't. Normally, the tops are in when the retail come crashing through everything. To be honest with you, retail's always last. When you see the retail, when you see everything go berserk, it's time to take profit. Let's be honest. What else have we got? Trump is playing the game. Yeah. Would you make a video how to? I've already done crypto tax videos. It's one of my best performing videos I've done. It's on my channel. You'll find it. It's very easy to find. How much do you pay on crypto gains in the UK? It's changed now. 18% is a base rate, and then you go up to 28. I think now they've made it harder. They made it bigger. They've took away the allowance as well. So back when I first started, we had like a £12,000 free allowance, so you could take £12,000 free. It's great. Now that's zero. So that kind of sucks. If we do get an altcoin season, how many multiples do you think? Not many. Depends on what Bitcoin does. I think I mentioned this before. I think when we look at like a lot of the bigger ones, so even if look at AVAX for example, right? Random example. On the higher time frames on the likes of AVAX, right? We look at, oh bloody hell. There we go. It's gone lower. Yeah, we're never going to see this amount. So most newer assets look like this because of the dilution of the asset, right? So even if we're looking at this like bounce up to here or even up to here, 3-4x maybe on a lot of the big boy ones on the BTC pair. Obviously, if Bitcoin then doubles, you're going to multiply that again. So it just depends on where you're looking at. For me, I wouldn't get too carried away. I wouldn't, because the dilution's too much. Like, I'm not saying that it's a bad asset, but when you think about a lot of these top assets, they've been diluted quite heavily. So there's a lot more tokens versus the first cycle as well. So that's always a big factor. Same with Ethereum. There's obviously it was inflationary for a while, then deflationary, so to speak. So that's one problem. Polkadot's exactly the same. Back here, there was like, yeah, cool, it was a brand new release, but over the course of these 3 years, you've had 18% per year inflation of new tokens. So that's like swimming into the tide. It's like really, really going to be quite hard unless you get something really drastic happening, which I find that unlikely. Solana's the same, right? Solana, look at that. Bit rangy, isn't it? But in the USD pair, that looks totally different. because of the tokens that got released. It's probably going to go up to all time. I think it will. I think Solana's one of the absolute top assets around. It's only, what, 3% of the market. But ultimately, when you look at this in the USD pair, it looks totally different, doesn't it? It all depends on what Bitcoin does. So don't get caught out with what Bitcoin does. Kind of worry about what everything else is doing at the same time in terms of the BTC pairs. Still bullish on dog? Yes, massively bullish on dog. Going back to the title of the video, do you think we're going to get a short squeeze before? Yeah, I think the short squeeze is coming up very soon, personally. I think sooner rather than later it's going to... We can't keep going down forever. You know, look at those charts. They're honking. They're horrible. It feels like people are giving up. People are walking away. Then all of a sudden, boom, catches you out. And people, you know, that's what the whole point of like shaking the tree, so to speak. So yeah, just got to be mindful of it. Would you short Ray? There's no... I don't know. Never looked, to be honest with you. Don't really want to look, to be fair. If you were 50% down at the moment, which alts only from the top 20, how would you... Personally, if you've redone your research and your conviction is absolutely bulletproof, you must add to your bag. I know it sounds mental, but you got to get that dollar cost average low, because if your conviction's high, because you know what's going to happen, you're not going to do it. It's going to pop off and you're going to go, I wish I bought more. I wish I bought more at that level. Well, I didn't. Always happens. Crypto tax. Hey, if you're in the UK, I'd reconsider, because they track the living shit out of you now. Every single exchange that we can use is all FCA approved now, and guess where that goes? I wonder. Do you meddle in stocks? Yeah, I came from the stock market. I invested in general investing funds for a good 2-3 years before I got into crypto. So yeah, I've always been in the stock market. I have a decent stocks and shares ISA, which has got a load of stocks and shares in it. I've got other general investing accounts as well. So yeah, I've always been a stock market guy first. Weirdly, I think BTC just got a triangle. But there's a lot of people do think 90k. I'm kind of expecting, well, we're at the middle. Let's be honest, we're in the middle of this kind of road, so to speak. I think what could be interesting here, this might be the play. I don't want to go too deep on this though, but when we're looking at this sort of situation, if this rejects, it wouldn't shock me going back into this region or even down into this kind of extension level and go for a deep liquidity kind of run. That would hurt though. But it depends on the news. Woohoo. News will be the reaction. I think when the market is most, well, volatile, weak, whatever you want to know it as, it's going to get very interesting. So yeah, that could be an interesting point. But for me, it's holding up at the minute, but it has to break above here and change character again. Find it unlikely it's going to happen until maybe CPI day, maybe Wednesday. The market might be in a bit of a lull until Wednesday, so we'll need to keep an eye on that realistically. And then things might be absolutely fine after that. We'll see. We'll see. It's early days. Start of the week. Monday's not great. What should we expect on the next leg up? Oof. Personally, the next leg up is, you're looking at 125 at least. If this is the entire market, right? So obviously from the low of September to the top, pull back in around this region, the next essential levels are up here somewhere in terms of 125. Personal opinion. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? And it's not. It's only a 14% move higher than the BTC all-time high. So that's where you'd expect it, realistically, in terms of that situation. Thank you, Stone. To be honest with you, it's a way of life, investing. You gotta live with it. You gotta navigate the market however you see fit. What is your realistic conservative BTC top up here? Scale out zones are somewhat there for me, in and around it. These actually do have a meaning, by the way. So if I'll show you it. Bear with me. Feel free if anyone wants to take note of it. If anyone is interested in exit plans, I talk about them quite a bit on my Patreon, so to speak. I'm going to be doing every single individual coin I own on my Patreon as in exit plans too. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. From the cycle low, as high, sorry, to the low, extension fib sort of thing. The 3.618 and the 2.618, sorry. Around 157 and 200,000. It's a big box, I know. It's a fucking huge box. But ultimately, I'm looking around there. as a realistic time for scaling a little bit out. My biggest problem is tax. Sorry, I know I've said it, but I invested quite early, so I can't go mental on it. I don't look at wick off distributions. I don't really believe in them, to be honest with you. Too much skeptic. No, I can't even say the word. You know what I mean. I wouldn't personally worry about inflation. Tokens available on the market because most liquidity will be in it. Nah, that's bollocks. If you think about the top 100 coins, the top 4 has got most, like 90 fucking percent of the volume half the time. Look at it. Like, give you an idea. Volume in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tether is way more than anything below it, other than maybe USDC, which is again a stable coin. So when you look at all these coins, right, some of them have got fuck all volume, which is a good thing in a way because they may well pump. But when you talk about the fact that when the volume is much higher, the volume always goes to Bitcoin, always goes into Tether, always goes to Ethereum. Even Solana's got a lot lower volume than you'd think, but just the way it is. So as much as you say, yeah, the top 100, but the top 100, some of them are down at the bottom, could well pump quite significantly. But at the same time, they're all going to flow to the most obvious, so they may not pump at all. It's a dicey kind of world, so to speak, if you're looking at it. Looking at the total, do you think it's slightly under double from... I don't know. I don't know. With the total market cap, you've got to remember the obvious in the room is there's more altcoins that appear, the more the situation changes. So obviously, yeah, this is just programmed to go up as more altcoins get released to the market. So we could definitely go higher. I mean, come on. Like, when we pumped in the last cycle, right, which is a total market cap, $362 billion was literally the market cap, which is madness in itself. Now we're into the trillions. It's like, what? Don't know how high it's going to go, though. Depends on what you want. I think it's a wishy-washy indicator, this. I don't like it. Because anyone could just make up a number. But what if like 25 really good assets get released to the market and it's just inflated monies out of nowhere? Well, it just inflated data, doesn't it? When do you personally think the cycle top will be in? Probably Q3. I think if we pump between February and March into May, it'll be very interesting to see where we go. May's always a nifty month anyways. June, July, etc. Going into maybe August, September could be interesting. And then are we going to live till October, November like last cycle or the cycle before that? I don't know. That's the situation. I don't know. When you take profits in Great British pounds, how do you do it? Do you sell into USD? Yeah. Basically, I use Swissbog. Swissbog's probably the best in my opinion for it because it's fast, it's easy, it's efficient. You get your own bank and sort code, and it's in your own name. But it depends if you're in the UK or not, or if you're in Europe. It does it for Europe as well. But yeah, the easiest way for me is Swissbog, and it's the one that I rate the most for it. I've used Kraken before. Kraken's good. I've used Coinbase a long time ago, but not for a long time. So that might be very different now. But yeah, the only way to do it is you got to move your money onto the exchange and swap it for Great British pound and then into the UK. There is other ways of doing it, but it's a bit iffy, a bit crappy, really. I mean, a lot of people use vouchers nowadays. There's like voucher websites, which is pretty impressive. But anyways, I think I'm going to shoot off. I've had a good live stream. I've enjoyed it. I apologise for the cock up at the start. I do not think I'll be going on Twitch anymore and trying to live stream on Twitch, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind. At least it looks pretty good. I will change my chatbot thing so it doesn't look like I'm got 0 on Twitch. It's because Twitch just didn't like it. Double the bandwidth, not ideal. Anyways, appreciate everyone turning up. I will be back tomorrow.